Hello everyone, how is it going? In this video, I will be talking about the power of a crisis and how we can seize the opportunity to overcome and use a crisis to our benefit in the long run. Now, when you're in the midst of a crisis and you're spiraling and you feel like you're at rock bottom, it can truly feel like it can't get much worse. It can truly feel like you are just in pure survival mode, that it's just getting by. How do I get through the next hour? That's how it can feel. It can feel like you're just keeping your head above water and you're on the brink, you're on the verge of going under, you're on the verge of drowning. That's how it can feel. We've all been there. OCD is relentless, resilient disorder. And when it hits hard, as we all know. So it's very critical to remember that in these crisis moments, they are actually times that we make the change, okay? I'll explain what I mean by this. So I am thankful for my crisis moments. I am thankful for my lowest moments with OCD. If you asked me at the time, I would have said, what on earth are you talking about? How could I be thankful for this? Because we've all been there. We've all been in a position where you can't see the end of the tunnel. You're just trapped in the dark tunnel and you think you're locked in. You think there's no way out. You think there's no escape. You lose all hope. You feel confused. You just feel so deflated. You feel dejected and you just feel really low. We've all been there, okay? But looking back now, being recovered, I needed those moments. I needed those moments. They shaped my recovery. They gave me the kick up the ass that I needed. Okay, they were a blessing in disguise for me. Why were they a blessing in disguise? Well, because they were the opportunity to reassess and see where I was going wrong. Because when you're in that emotional distressed state and when you are drowning in the emotional disturbance of the anxiety, for me it was particularly the guilt, the shame, the panic, like constant panic sensations, just keep my head above water. I felt like I was going to panic at any moment, on the verge of just panic attacks all throughout the day. Now, it's a great chance to think, well, where am I going wrong here? Right? In the moment, there's nothing you can do to change that, I'm afraid. You know, you're going to have to learn to wear it as best as you can. If you're watching this video and you're thinking, Sam, I'm in such a low place, just please help me. You've got to just wear it as best as you can. Wear the discomfort. Wear all the uncomfortable physical sensations. Wear the guilt. Wear the shame. Wear the depression. Wear the panic. Wear the anxiety. The reason we say wearing it is like you've zipped up that very uncomfortable item of clothing and you're getting on with your day as best as you can, keeping up your life structure whilst trying to resist any compulsion that comes along the way. Yes, that's very hard, but that is the meaning of wearing it, okay? So it's important that we're doing that, but in the moment, nothing can really, I know I can't wave a magic wand and say, oh, do this, and then it all makes it all go away. No, we're not miracle workers here. It's going to take a bit of time. But for now, if you're in that crisis, it's just getting through one day at a time, taking baby steps, one step at a time, just getting through the next hour, breaking the day down into little segments. If I can get through the next 15 minutes, great, happy days. That's an accomplishment, that's an achievement. If I can get through that, awesome. If I can get through the next 15 minutes, keep going. And you build that momentum, you build that strength, and you build that confidence, and you start really taking bigger strides because you're showing yourself you can get through it as best as you can. So keep going there, please keep going. You've got no other choice, you have to keep pushing forward. But the reason the crisis is a power, it's the power of a crisis because you can seize the opportunity, right? You've got to think, well, when the symptoms have calmed and when it's faded and when you're not feeling as urgent and as on edge and you feel just in complete full-blown panic mode, when that gradually comes down and fades, or certainly comes down to a more functionable level where there's a bit more clarity there, you can think, well, why am I in this crisis? Where am I going wrong? What's got me into this position? What's got me into this vicious cycle that I find myself in? What's got me into this distressed state that's incredibly uncomfortable? Now, what often happens is that when you reflect, you can see the build-up of compulsions. Okay, when I was having setbacks and felt like I was in crisis mode, I could see how I was opening the door for OCD to thrive, especially when I'd been doing well and I was gradually opening the door because I had the massive fear component. I was terrified of not being able to cope. I was terrified of being in constant panic. I was terrified of it getting worse. I was terrified of being stuck forever. So what I would do, I'd almost get to a good place and then just try and shut the door on OCD, keep it at bay, go over there, go over there. But the problem is that when I had like a big event coming up, for example, I would then start doing compulsions because I was desperate for OCD not to latch. I was like, no, please, I can't be triggered. I can't be triggered. I can't have this event ruined. I can't have this experience soured. No, go away. But then that's when OCD would build and I start allowing those compulsions and OCD starts building momentum, not you. OCD starts going full force with power, taking huge strides. Okay, starts building that momentum. I want you building momentum, not OCD. Don't let OCD build momentum. And it does that when you allow compulsions to happen and when you go back to that rigid, crooked thinking which OCD has previously thrived upon. But if you're watching this video as in the start of your journey and you haven't had a one-to-one coaching call yet, and you want to get involved and you want some coaching calls and you want to get this journey started, then the advice for you is seeing this moment of crisis as the spark that ignites the change in your mental health, okay? Reaching out is going to be key. You're not going to recover on your own. You know, this is not a sales pitch, but I just need to be realistic with you. You're not going to recover on your own. So it's going to be important that you're reaching out, you're getting involved with the content, you're watching YouTube videos, as watching this video, you're getting in the WhatsApp groups, you're reading the books on our reading list, you're getting involved, you're having that guidance. If you do wish to get involved, which I would totally encourage, it's phil@ocdrecovery.com for one-to-one services. Remember, I'm not trying to sell this to you, but I can't sugarcoat it. You know, OCD is such a relentless disorder that you ain't going to just budge by just watching this video and saying, seize the opportunity. You can what the hell do you mean by that? You know, we're going to have to show you. We've been there. You know, all of us here, me, Sam, Rob, Nick, Momin, Elliot, Gemma, we've all been in rock bottom crisis moments. So we can show you how you can seize them and use them as an opportunity and the power of that crisis that you're in and how this can be the spark which ignites that change in your mental health. It ignites the recovery journey. So that's phil@ocdrecovery.com in order to get in touch, and we can book you in as soon as we possibly can on our schedules. So when we go through a crisis, or if you're going through a crisis right now, what that is signifying to you is what needs work, right? It's highlighting to you. It's pointing out, it's saying, hey, you watching this video, you need to work on this particular fear because you're very rigid and you're very black and white and you're very irrational around this particular topic. So therefore, you're going to need a lot of work and changing some of your perspectives here, changing some of your irrational beliefs here, adjusting them, adapting them to rational beliefs, getting under it with rigorous disputing work, challenging your crooked thinking, putting it to the test, using a scientific approach, using a more rational approach, rather than just opting for the crooked thinking. Okay, so it's showing you what needs work. Critical. It's showing you what compulsion has got you into this position, or what compulsions, as in what behaviors. Usually it's a build-up of compulsions. Okay, quite usually a crisis starts when we start allowing the door open for OCD to stick its foot in, and here it comes barging through unexpected, unannounced. It's not the most polite at times. It can just boom, come on in, and then it will take over, because that's because you've given it an inch by performing compulsions. You've given it an inch by going back to your crooked thinking. Maybe you've opted for instant gratification habits. Maybe you've opted for low frustration tolerance habits. Maybe your structure has gone astray, and maybe you're opting for laziness, procrastination. Maybe you're putting things off. Maybe you're finding you're complaining a lot about just things going wrong and how you're feeling, and you're allowing OCD to thrive. OCD thrives off a faulty internal framework. And that internal framework, which is faulty, is the crooked thinking, it's the compulsive behaviors, which is allowing the cycle to thrive, and it fuels that cycle, and a poor life structure. You know, if those three things are astray, OCD rubs its hands and it has an absolute field day. It goes crazy off that. It goes wild. It has a fucking party. Okay? So see a crisis as a chance to reorganize, as a chance to reflect and see, right, what's happened? Where have I gone wrong? As we wear the symptoms, we resist compulsions, we focus on the structure. Okay, we have to wear all the physical sensations. But it's the moment of reflection. Like I said, when you speak to a coach, you know, I can sit on a call with you and go, right, where have we gone wrong here? And I would say within about 2 minutes, I can detect, right, that's where you've gone wrong. I can tell your thinking has slipped back massively. I can tell you've done a huge compulsion there. So you've given OCD the power. You've put in the key to your mental health and you've popped it in the hands of OCD, and now it's calling the shots. You've given your car keys to OCD and you're in the boot and OCD's in the driving seat, driving you along. No, we're going this way, we're going that way, hey, we're going way, and you're in the boot helpless. Okay? That's how it can feel when we start allowing OCD to thrive. And even when you're doing well, maintenance work is vital to sustain the robust recovery that you are working towards with a marathon approach that takes the gradual process, and it will take time. To sustain that, it's very important that you are putting in that maintenance work. And maintenance work meaning the consistent disputing, or just the regular disputing. You know, always speak to your coach of how much you think it's best to dispute. Ultimately, it's down to you to be proactive and use your initiative there, because ultimately you're trying to become your own coach, right? So you can decide yourself, you can make those decisions yourself. Okay, but maintenance work is key. Never get complacent. Never think you're out of the woods. Never think you're in the clear. Never get cocky. I learned that the hard way, trust me. I got cocky and OCD came and slapped me in the face. All right, so just be wary of that. Doesn't mean you need to be disputing all the time. I'm not suggesting that at all. But you've got to be aware that you have a very, very serious chronic mental health disorder that is waiting to pounce. It's waiting to seize its opportunity to pounce on you. Okay? So when you're going through that crisis, because you will have crisis moments, because this disorder is intense, it's very serious, it's very severe, so you will have crisis. But the biggest thing that changed me, especially with the fear of fear, was seizing the opportunity of what I can get from this crisis, what I can get from this turbulent period of mental health, what I can get from this wobble, using it to my advantage, seeing it as an opportunity, a learning curve for me, thriving off that. That's hard when you're in the moment, of course it is. When you're in a full-blown panic, the last thing you're thinking of is, oh, this is going to help me. But trust me, I'm urging you to try and see it as a blessing and just wear it as best as you can, please. Just get through it as best as you can. Your future self is willing you on, it's urging you on, it's cheering you on, is applauding you. Go on, you can do it, you can get through it, right? You can. You got to keep pushing through. You've got no other choice. You got to keep going. Even when you're in that dark tunnel and it feels like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, and even just a glimmer of light seems a million miles away, you got to keep putting one foot in front of the other and taking those baby steps forward. Okay, you fall down, you get back up, you keep going. It's critical, because your future self is thanking you, because freedom does await, but freedom only awaits when we use these crisis points to our advantage, to our benefit, and we see where we went wrong, we reflect, we think, look, I made a mistake there, that didn't help. How do I make sure I don't make that same mistake in the future? And when it comes round to doing that compulsion again, we must resist as if our life depends on it. Because remember that doing those compulsions has got you into this crisis in the first place. It's very, very important to remember that. You know, letting your thinking slip back. Maybe you've eased off on the books. Maybe you've eased off on your disputing work. Maybe you've taken the foot off the gas altogether and you've sort of gone back to your old irrational way of thinking, and you can tell the rigidity's coming back, and you'll know that, you'll notice that. I could tell my old way of thinking was coming back, just the way I would react to things, the way I would see things, rather than taking like an observational, non-judgmental approach to particular things I was reading. Maybe I'm reading a news article, whatever, I can tell I'm getting involved with the anger and the beliefs are getting through then. It's like, oh, you know, terrible person, awful this, awful that. Maybe the demands are coming in. Maybe I make a mistake in my career, for example, and I can tell, like, I'm going, oh, you mustn't have done that, you stupid idiot, how could you have done that? The self-downing's coming in, the self-rating's coming in. Maybe you can start seeing things where you're saying, shit, if I'm triggered now, then the holiday's ruined. Oh no, not the holiday's ruined. Boom, that kind of irrational thinking is allowing OCD to thrive, okay? Because you're saying words like ruined, you're writing yourself off, you're using demands such as musts, shoulds, oughts, needs, have tos, got tos. You're going down the catastrophic path. You're going down the low frustration tolerance path. You're saying, I can't stand this and I can't bear this, whilst also aligning that with low frustration tolerance behaviours, opting for the easy route, choosing instant gratification, opting for the escape mechanism, trying to avoid. You know, it does build, and as you get wiser and gain more knowledge and insight on this disorder, and as you go through the journey, you notice these tricks, you notice these little things that you do, which you can tell is like a domino effect. It's like sequence of events happens, it escalates into a big crisis point. You can see that, and that's exactly why these crises are a huge blessing for you, because once you have the crisis, you can sit and reflect and think, yeah, I can see how that happened now. And when you're in the midst of it, I know it's hard to see it like that, wear it as best as you can, please keep going. But it's important that we're reflecting, get in touch with your coach and think, look, I'm having an absolute crisis here, Sam, what's going on? And we can get to work immediately. We can get stuck in immediately and think, right, that's where we're going wrong. This needs to change. You've got to wear it for now, but this needs to change. To change our view on this. You're super rigid around this. That's the problem. That right there is allowing OCD to thrive. This needs work. We need to look at this. We need to prioritize this. We need to address this immediately. It's that, you know, it's taking that immediate action to have that change. Okay? Of course, you can't do anything to get rid of emotion immediately. Of course we can. We all know that. When we're triggered, when we're having that panic attack, when we're feeling anxious, when we're having a bad, rough spell of OCD, it's wearing it and riding it out, riding the OCD wave. That's all we can do there, okay? But it's important to have that self-reflection via the help of a coach to see what went wrong and how we can address that to ultimately prevent that happening in the future and have that intervention so it doesn't grip hard in the future again. Learning from it, seizing the opportunity of a crisis moment, absolutely critical for the recovery journey, okay? Please see it as a gradual process. See it as a lifelong project. Doesn't mean a lifelong of suffering. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, though, you need to see it as it's going to take time. Take the long-term approach. Please don't trade that for the short-sighted approach where you just get relief, and get nowhere in the long run. Just go round in circles, chasing your tail, chasing that certainty, chasing comfort, chasing control, chasing relief. You'll get nowhere like that. OCD is conning you every time for the short-term gratification. Trade that for the long-term robust recovery. It's very important we're using crisis moments to help us. The power of a crisis. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like. That'd be much appreciated. Any questions that you've got, any video recommendations, please leave a comment and I'm more than happy to take a look. If you are interested in one-to-one services, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com. That's phil@ocdrecovery.com. You can also get in touch with our WhatsApp contact. The number is in the description of this video. Anyway, guys, you take care. We'll speak again and look after yourself. You can do it. Bye-bye.